Hello there and welcome to day 4 of the Meeting Tech Mastery workshop. And today we're going to be taking a look at the VivoMeetings platform itself. In case you don't know, if you're just stumbling across this video and missed the first few days, my name is Alec Johnson and I'm over here from my channel Take One Tech in collaboration with VivoMeetings to bring you this workshop to help you level up your online presence in your online meetings, in your online webinars and so on. So let's just take a quick recap at the sessions that we've had so far. So we did start on day 1 with video and lighting. Then we looked at audio on day 2, and yesterday we were talking about presentations. And then so today, as I say, we're going to be taking a look at the VivoMeetings platform itself, and I'll be running through some of the settings, some of the in-meeting controls and things like that, and just sort of calling out a few of the features that really attracted me to it when I discovered it and was invited to this collaboration. So I'll be sharing some of my the things that I think are specifically useful when it comes to what we'll be talking about tomorrow, which is live production and using live production software or hardware such as Ecamm Live to really level up your online meeting experience. And there's certain features that VivoMeetings have that make it a really good sort of companion for that. So that is the plan for the remainder of the sessions here on YouTube. But there is also a bonus session, which will be a Q&A in a Vivo meeting. And that's going to be on Monday at the same time as all of these sessions. To get access to that, you do need to register though. So if you aren't already, then click the link either in the description. If you're watching live, then you'll find it pinned to the top of the chat as well. And incidentally, if you are finding this sometime in the future, then do go ahead and register as well. You'll get access to some downloads which will be sent out as well, and all of the replays of these sessions here on YouTube, but also that Q&A session as well in case you want to view that. So with all that said, let's take a look at the agenda for today, and I'll run through what we're going to be talking about. So first of all, we will, as I say, go through the settings. There's some really nice little features in here, and one of the things I like about VivoMeetings is that some of these other platforms can be a little bit bloated with maybe a little bit too many settings sometimes, whereas here, as you'll see as we go through it, it's quite nice and concise, and you'll find everything that you need there. Next, we'll be looking at scheduling and some of the options you've got, some of the different meeting types, which is another kind of fairly unique feature, I think, for Vivo, which is this way that you can choose between different meeting modes. We'll be talking about that. Then we'll talk about the in-meeting controls. It should be fairly self-explanatory, but we'll just go over that as well. Next, we'll look at the different pricing plans, the different tiers, and what features and benefits you get with all of those. And then also, I just want to call out the feature roadmap, because it is nice to see that they have this very publicly on the website as well. So we'll be talking about that as well. So that is the plan for today. Let me just check in and say a few hellos. Hey Dan, great to see you here as well. Seen a lot of you this week in the chat and in the Take One Tech Academy Q&A earlier on today for me as well. Hey Alexis, great to see you as well from Sweden. And let me just come down here. Just click the wrong thing. There we go. Oh, hey, Paul. I'm glad we've got your virtual camera thing sorted, and I'm glad you raised it, because it's something else for me to mention today. So I'll certainly be talking about that. I've literally just seen your email saying that it worked just before I came on. So I'll explain what all this is about in due course today to everyone else as well. Great to see you here as well, George. Yes, it's a lovely evening for me here right now. A little bit past my bedtime, but it's all good. Hello from Burbank. Hey from South Carolina. Terrace Foley checking in from Las Vegas. Hey Jeff, it's great to see you in here as well again. Glad you're enjoying the content, and Russell too. Hey, by the way, I've got a little thing to circle back to. Actually, we were chatting in the Take One Tech Academy Q&A earlier on today. I actually do 2 of those every week, 12 hours apart. So it was, for me, the afternoon session. So it was just about 5 hours ago. And it's worth me just sort of mentioning this. It's all to do with virtual cameras and the keynote animation. So let me just finish off the hellos, and I'll just come to this before I go into all of these settings. Hey, Gary, great to see you here as well. And finally, Rich as well. So fantastic to see you all here. So yeah, this little idea that sort of popped into my mind was I was talking with some folks in the Academy Q&A, and we were talking about using Keynote and all the stuff that I talked about yesterday, where you can have these animated transitions and you bring your live video feed into Keynote or into PowerPoint, and then you have it sort of transition so that it does all of the little animation, basically how I'm animating these title slides and things like that I do. And the question was, one of the members is using virtual cameras. So whilst here, I've obviously got a real background, I'm bringing in my my camera into Keynote as well, and then I'm doing a screen share. So this was everything that I explained yesterday. And so the question was, well, what if you use a virtual background in Ecamm and you want to bring that into Keynote? Now, it may be that PowerPoint will allow virtual cameras, so then you could use the Ecamm virtual cam, but Keynote doesn't allow that. So I had a little idea, which might seem a little bit extreme, but it does actually solve the problem. If you want to take your Ecamm production and Ecamm virtual camera with green screen background into your Keynote, there is actually a way that we can do it. And I'll just quickly show you this because it is potentially useful to some folks. And we'll be talking about live production in Ecamm actually more tomorrow. But if I go into my live demo mode here, I've got my camera switcher. Now, if you imagine that I had got my camera here with all of my different effects on, my green screen and things like that, if I click on the little 3 dots in the camera switcher there, I can choose this option, Source Video Monitor, and I can choose any one of the monitors that's connected, the HDMI cables out of my computer. I can select any one of those to send just that specific video feed to. And so I had the thought that if you've got an extra cam link lying around and you've got a spare HDMI output on your computer, then what you could do is you could just simply plug in a HDMI out of your computer, plug it into the cam link, and then take the USB side of the cam link and feed it right back into the computer again. And what that means is you're taking that Ecamm video feed complete with the all of the the effects, the green screen effects, or whatever you've done to it, and you're now presenting that to the rest of your computer as its own camera feed. And because the Keynote will accept or will see rather cam links, then that would be a way to get all of your Ecamm green screen sort of background and so on. That would be a way to actually get that into Keynote and then feed it back into Ecamm again in a screen share if you want to do that whole animation. I know that that's a bit over the top, but that's exactly the sort of geeky stuff that that I like. So I just thought I'd bring that up because we were talking about it, and the question came up in both of my Q&A sessions earlier on in my Take One Tech Academy that people were asking about this. They use green screen in their production, and how could they achieve the same result? So I just thought I would mention that here anyway. Hey Morris, great to see you as well. Hello Michael, it's fantastic to hear from you. Indeed, long time no see. I'm sorry to hear about that, but I'm glad. Hopefully you're on the mend, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. On that note, will the fact that PowerPoint will now take Ecamm Virtual Camera, is that enough to make you switch? If that's to switch to PowerPoint, I use PowerPoint and Keynote, to be honest. I just prefer Keynote. It's arguably not quite as full featured as PowerPoint. PowerPoint does do a few extra things, but I just find that Keynote works more the way my mind works. But I've been using PowerPoint and the whole Microsoft suite for years, and I consider myself an Excel power user as well. I need a visual for the. You know what? Let me just quickly draw this then. If you're interested in seeing a visual, because I'll I can just quickly sort of demonstrate what's happening. So in Ecamm, we've got the camera switcher. And in the camera switcher, you've got all of your different cameras where you've added in your different effects. So like this camera that I've got at the moment, my camera, it's not really got any effects on it, but imagine that this was a green screen behind me or something like that. Well, what you can do is you can use the option which is on the camera effects window. I should probably save this really for the Ecamm session tomorrow where we'll be talking about live production, but there's an option that is Source Video Monitor. So Source video monitor is the one that basically you're sending the signal out from eCam to a monitor. And the idea is that if you want to just have a particular monitor that's just for monitoring a particular camera, then you send it out to that HDMI cable, to that monitor, I should say. But what we're actually going to do is we're just going to send it out to over HDMI out of the computer directly into a cam link. So this is the cam link here. And then from there, we're going to plug it right back in over USB into the computer. And so then the computer then sees this as a completely new camera feed. And it's essentially your camera, but with any effects from eCam applied. So effectively, your main camera is coming into the computer and into eCam. You're then applying, a load of effects to it, and then you're sending it back out over HDMI into a cam link, and then right back into the computer again. As I say, it's a bit of a bit of a workaround, but it would mean that you could get the virtual camera from eCam into Keynote. But as Rich says, if PowerPoint actually just simply allows virtual cameras, whoops, take that off the screen. If PowerPoint simply allows virtual cameras, maybe just using PowerPoint might be a bit easier. Anyway, I won't go too much more into that today because, tomorrow I'll be talking all about live production and it's probably more a topic for then. But what I want to start with then is if we do go to the settings. So I want to talk about just basically run through the settings that we've got in Vivo Meetings and sort of talk through some of those. I'm going to start from the video and audio. The first ones here are to do with your account, picture and password, two-factor authentication, all of those good things that you need to go ahead and set up. But I'm just going to start here with the audio and video settings. So it's pretty simple. We've got the audio input, in my case, it's the Rodecaster input and the Rodecaster for the output. So that's where I'm setting all of this up. Then we've got noise cancellation. So whether you want to filter out any background noise, I would tend not to have that because I kind of handle all of that myself, but better to have that on if you don't. And then here you can either see what your display is going to look like to everyone else, or you can have it so that it flips it just for you. Some people prefer to have their image flipped so that it behaves more like looking in a mirror. I get why people like to do that, but I like to have mine basically just the regular way around as I'm used to it. So I know that when I point this way, it looks like I'm pointing the other way on the screen. Next, we've got the camera, and the camera in this case, I've put it as the cam link because if I put it as my eCam Live virtual camera, you'll just get this sort of little tunnel vision effect. So for the time being, I just left it as my cam link. Now, if you are going to be using Vivo Meetings in the browser, then in Safari, for example, on a Mac, then that won't see virtual cameras from things like eCam. And I keep mentioning eCam because we'll be talking about it tomorrow and talking about how to use live production software, but this might not be an issue for many people. But with Chrome browser, though, the virtual camera just works. So you can take your eCam production directly into the browser. If you want to use the desktop app, though, there is a little bit of terminal code that we need to add in. And this was actually something that I was just mentioning to Paul earlier on. Which was that in order to first add this code into the terminal, let me just show you. And again, this is a Mac-centric thing, so PCs maybe don't have this issue at all, but this is something for just to be aware of with the Mac. In the privacy and security section of your Mac, first of all, you need to go to, Mac settings, then privacy and security, and then you need to go to this one, app management, and you just need to make sure that you've got the terminal in there as something that can control other apps, because it was I think it was like a couple of operating systems ago this was added in. It always used to be that terminal, if you opened up the terminal app on the Mac, you could control anything, whereas they added this extra little security thing in here at some point. But in any case, you just need to, if it's not showing up in this list, click the little plus icon, add the terminal in, and then you toggle it on just there. Once you've done that, though, you can open up the Terminal app, and there's a little bit of code that you basically just drop in here, and that is the code. I've left it in the description of this video, so if you did want to grab that, you'll be able to find that in there, and it's everything basically from here, from this sudo codesign and so on. And basically what this is doing is this means that then when you are on the desktop app of VivoMeetings, it will just have the virtual camera. So I know for anybody doing these kind of live production things, whether you're using Ecamm or maybe OBS or some other virtual camera, you might want to be able to use those in the meeting platform. And so currently it's not natively supported, maybe a feature request further down the line, or a feature to be added further down the line. But once you've put that code in, though, then the virtual camera will just show up there, so you can send your virtual camera into that. Next, I'll just briefly talk about virtual backgrounds. As with all meeting platforms, they've got these different virtual backgrounds you can use. Personally, I'm not a fan of virtual backgrounds on any platform. I just think the general look and appearance doesn't necessarily lend itself to professionalism, although they have got some nice sort of plain, sort of more professional style backgrounds. But personally, I just think that sticking with something that has a higher quality key, a green screen key, for example, and use a proper green screen if you are going to use a virtual background, because anything that's going to try and figure out where you end and the background begins is always going to have a little bit of a job unless you've got a good quality green screen. So I personally tend to avoid these. The next thing, though, is this thing called meeting mode. Now, this is a really nice little feature because, and we'll come on to something about webinars in a little while as well, but it's got these different sort of modes for your meeting. So obviously, you're aware of the idea of a webinar, which is generally just, it's more of a one-directional thing. So you're presenting, maybe the other participants aren't even on camera, can't be heard either, maybe not even see how many people are in the meeting. And then you might have another meeting where obviously there's sort of multiple people in the meeting and you can all see each other and converse and so on. And you may have to sort of manually go through and adjust, what levels of permissions they've got and things like that. What I like about this is they've kind of set up a whole series of these for you. So first of all, they've got this conversation collaboration mode. That's basically just a regular meeting, as I would think of it. So people can all activate their camera, they can all share their screen, upload, download documents, things like that, use the whiteboard, access the chat, and so on. So that is basically, what I would think of as a general meeting. Then they've got this other option, though, which is a Q&A and classroom mode. Now, this has got some restrictions placed on it. And whilst you can do this on other platforms, the thing about this is it's a preset, so you don't have to go through and change these things, one at a time. So changing screen sharing options and so on. So here, this is more of a classroom Q&A style thing. So participants are muted as a default when they go in, and they can unmute themselves, and all participants have access to their webcam. They can raise their hands. But only the moderators or co-hosts, as you might have be familiar with the name, then only they can share their screen, upload documents, and so on. So there's a different level of sort of permissions, basically, for the attendees. Next is presentation and webinar mode. So this one has a waiting room activated by default. All participants can join muted as a default and cannot unmute themselves. And only moderators will be able to have their cameras on and so on. So this is more like a sort of traditional webinar. And then finally, you've got focus mode, which is basically everybody is muted and they can't unmute themselves, and but they will be able to activate their webcam and raise their hand. So I got those two the wrong way around, actually. This is this is more like a traditional webinar. This is kind of like a little bit of a hybrid. But what I like about that, though, is it gives you these sort of 4 different presets. And instead of having to go through at each individual meeting and make lots of different adjustments, you've got these presets effectively that just have that all set up for you. And when we look at scheduling, you'll see how that how this plays out, how you can just easily just choose one of these, basically. Next is waiting room. So you can toggle to have the waiting room on. You can choose your hold music at, I think this is on one of the plans. We'll see the difference between the plans, but you can choose the hold music. Next is these things. So when people come in, whether you want to play a little chime, announce the names and things like that on entry. I tend to have all of these off because I'm often recording a meeting or recording a production using Ecamm going into a meeting, and then I want to be able to sort of capture the audio, the clean audio, without having things like this on. But you can have those on if you want. They've also got, obviously, dial-in numbers for folks dialing in. And then they've got these two things, the moderator pin and the access code. So that's slightly different. The access code is more like your personal meeting ID. I guess you could think of it like that. And obviously, you can just regenerate this one. And the moderator pin is so that if you've got a meeting going and there is a waiting room, it's basically a way to allow somebody else in to sort of skip the meeting waiting room. They can access that themselves. Then if we go to security, we've got a few options here. So when you are creating a new meeting room, do you want to use your personal meeting ID? So that's that access code there, or generate a new one. So I always do this, generate a new one, and use unique passwords as well. Yeah, anything that's not a very close associate who we just want to be able to jump into a standard meeting, I would always do that. Another nice feature is live streaming here. So if you want to, maybe you're doing a webinar or you're doing some sort of workshop and you want to be able to stream it to YouTube whilst also having it going on in the meeting, then you've got the option to stream to YouTube. You can set these in the meeting itself, which we'll see shortly as well, in addition to here. So you can toggle it on from here or in the meeting. And you can also use an RTMP stream key as well. So if you want to stream to any other destination. You can change the preferred layout. So when you are recording, whether you want to record the gallery view, the speaker view, or the speaker only. So again, if I'm doing something where I'm doing a workshop, which is I'm recording in Ecamm, and I want to have a backup recording, then I would use the speaker view. But when I go into the full sort of Q&A section, then it would be useful to have the gallery view. Well, one thing I like about this, as we'll see, is the recording. Although you can set the default here, you can actually toggle it sort of mid-meeting. So a typical sort of workshop for me would be, presenting something, and then if it was in a meeting scenario, presenting something, and then going into the Q&A part at the end, where folks are coming up and asking questions and things like that. So being able to have a backup of just the speaker view at the beginning when I'm sort of on Spotlight, and then when we go to the Q&A, switch over to the gallery view is a nice little feature. Then you've also got preferred layout when someone's presenting a file or screen sharing. So those two can be different. So that is recording and live streaming, pinless entry, and so on. So you can enter a phone number. So if you're calling in from there, mobile, then it will just join automatically. So you can sort of designate that phone number. Then you've got meeting invites, so how that goes out, whether it's a calendar request or whatever. And then the email notifications that you're going to get afterwards. So this has got, depending on the tier, you've got these automated transcriptions, which we'll talk about. So at the end of the meeting, you just automatically receive those. So those are the general sort of account settings. There is one more section. So this was basically from the account settings, but there is also another area which is more sort of like the account management, and this has got things related to your subscription payment and so on. I just wanted to draw your attention though to the very last option in there, which is the design, and what that allows you to do is, if I come into here, I scroll down a little bit, you can just change things like the icon, your company logo, and change your colors. And what that means is when somebody goes to the landing page to actually join the meeting, that's going to change what they see from there. So that's it in terms of the settings. Let me just come back to the chat for a second and see where we're up to. If I've gone a little bit far ahead, where are we? I'm glad that little doodle solved that that thing. I was never really sure if that was going to show it, but so this is to do with the cam links and the output and so on. It would be a resource drawer for sure, because you're sending out another camera feed, and the computer is seeing that as another monitor. So effectively, it's like hooking up another monitor. But actually bringing the cam link in, if you were going to be doing that, then it's not it is obviously a resource drawer, but it's not as big as actually some screen sharing. But there's definitely, it's processor heavy. So if you're on an Intel Mac or something, then probably I would give that one a miss. So, well, I'm glad that sounds interesting to some of you. Yeah, inputting the terminal code is exactly what we have to do with, I don't know what's going on with my comments here right now. Let me just try and adjust these. Why is that so massive across the screen? Let me just adjust this on the fly. There we go. Yeah, it's any app that doesn't natively support built-in terminal code. Yeah, and it would potentially need to be updated when there is a Vivo update. But yeah, Discord is something that's a source of endless frustration, because Discord seems to update their app every 30 minutes or so. So we're always having to redo that code. But technically, it would be the same thing. Yeah. Does personal meeting identifier to personalize the so the meeting link does actually have it's your own thing. So if I come to my meeting link for this one, it's basically take one tech and then slash, and then there's another little slug of code and something else. So there is something to personalize that link, and then you could obviously then go ahead and personalize that further if you wanted to use it like a redirect or something like that. If that answers the question. There isn't a video isolated video out for the guests. No, there isn't at the moment. And when I say at the moment, I don't even know if it's on the cards yet, but it would be certainly something that I'll be putting in as a feature request. Now that I've discovered it, then there'll be lots of feature requests that I'll be putting in. One feature request would be for the virtual camera, to have that just built into the code natively, because obviously it is something that the coders can do. It's just something that's maybe not being a priority, and it just requires users to request it, I guess, to get it bumped up the list. So, it's a bit like, for the longest time, Microsoft Teams didn't allow virtual cameras until only about 18 months ago as well. So, there's lots of platforms that don't seem to allow it for some reason. It's just not something that is in there. So yeah, to answer your question, though, no, there is no ISO video out at present, but who knows? Is there a way to improve appearance as offered in Zoom? There isn't actually, no. So there isn't the the touch up feature that there is in there. So no, there are some third party apps, which I'm forgetting the name of them now. There's one that's one really popular one, but the name's escaping me. It's like a third party camera app that you could have your camera go through that first, and then it has a virtual camera in. But no, it doesn't have it sort of built in. Like to know more about live streaming from VivoMeetings. So the way that works basically is, if I go back to here, where is it? Audio and video. Where is it? Oh, it's just off the bottom of my screen. That's all it was. So yeah, in the settings page up here, we go down to the recording and live streaming. You can toggle it on here, and then you can add in your stream key and so on down there. But then in the meeting, then we can toggle it on in there as well. So if I've got it toggled on, I'll just quickly flick over to a meeting, because I've got one sort of running to demo this, and I'll just pop this off the screen for a second. And down at the bottom, if I had enabled the streaming for this particular meeting, you'd just be able to stream from there. And it basically is just going to go through to YouTube. So you'd set your events, your broadcast up in YouTube first of all, and then when you are ready to start streaming to that, then you could just initiate that from here. So let's say you were doing a workshop with people in the meeting, and then you would have people come in, and then whenever you were ready to start on YouTube, you could initiate the stream from there, and then maybe you might finish the stream in there, but still be maintaining the meeting. So that's kind of like the technicality of how that would work. I'll go out of the meeting for a second, though, or at least out of this screen, and let's talk a little bit about scheduling. Because that would obviously be the next logical step after we've taken a look at the settings. And it's a very quick topic to cover this one. But basically, this is what the sort of scheduling screen looks like. So you give it a name, the date and time, obviously, enter a description. But the couple of things that I wanted to just mention was I talked about those different meeting styles. So that is... where has it gone now? Conversation mode. There we go. So those different meeting styles that I talked about, whether it's going to be a more of a webinar or a regular meeting, as I keep thinking of them, or the classroom mode, you can basically just set that up in advance here. So you can choose that. And this is another thing, you can actually switch to that as well. So let me just come back out of here. I'm just noticing that comment. Let me just see if I've missed this. Live streaming from VivoMeetings portal allows you to stream from inside the VivoMeetings portal, and up to 10,000 people can watch your live stream. Oh, sorry. Yes. So there is also, thank you for that reminder. Whenever you've got a meeting invite, so let me just grab where's a meeting invite? Whenever you've got a meeting invite, the slug of the meeting invite, if I can just find this in my notes here, the meeting invite looks something like this. I'm just going to try and make this big on the screen so that we can see it. Okay. Here we go. the joys of live demos. Let me get that all out of the way. The meeting invite looks something like that. So that would be the sort of format of the meeting invite. If you just change this conference call here, if you've got live streaming enabled, and you just put in live stream here, that will actually be a live stream as well. So you can actually share that link out through the VivoMeetings portal, and that is the thing here. If I come back to my settings. That is this second one. So you've got stream to YouTube, but there is also this portal, so you can toggle that one on as well. And then you can you can embed you can get the URL, which you can embed on your website or share the URL. So yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that update. So in terms of the scheduling, then let me just pop back to that window. I've got I'm using up all of my my desktops today with everything all over the place. But yeah, so it was just the fact that you can quickly choose that type. The other thing that you can do from here is we're talking about live streaming, so there is the option to automatically live stream. So if this was something that you wanted to set up to then automatically live stream to either YouTube or to that the portal, then you'd be able to set that from here as well. There's also this option. Again, this is something depending on the tier that you're on, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. You can have it automatically generate the AI smart summary with highlights of the meeting and so on. So yeah, pretty straightforward and logical in terms of scheduling. So let's just come and move on to the next section that I wanted to talk about, which was specifically about the sort of in-meeting controls that we've got. And I was just going to run through them. Again, it's pretty self-explanatory and intuitive, really. And I'll just come into my meeting that I've got running here. So first of all, where should we start? Down at the bottom, you've got your breakout rooms, you've got the stream. So this is where you can initiate the live stream. It's kind of grayed out because I hadn't enabled it in settings before I went in here. The record button, obviously, you've got a whiteboard, and you've got the sharing. So if you want to share a desktop, one feature that I like in this is it's really easy to add an additional camera. So if you click on the share additional camera, it just pops up the little camera chooser, and we can choose any one of these. So let's choose this one over here. Click on this, and then now it's just going to basically add that camera in. So now I've just added in a second camera from here. So that's a nice little feature, as well as being able to easily share, anything else on your desktop or your applications. Being able to share the camera is a nice feature. If I go into the more, we've also got some other settings in here. So if I go into the meeting settings, here we come to one of my favorites, which is when we went into the audio settings previously, we did see most of this, but there is a couple of extra things in here now to take note of, or well, really for me, one in particular, and it's this option here. It's this option to choose the resolution. And when you're using a virtual camera and you want that to go into your meeting platform, you want to know that if you're doing stuff where you're technically sharing a screen, but you're doing that through your live production software, which we're going to talk about tomorrow. And incidentally, the benefit of that is it adds fluidity. You can be in your meeting and just sort of switch from one thing to another, then you can switch back, and it's that seamless flow that you get. And that's one of the benefits of using live production software into your meetings. Well, you want to know that you're going to get a good resolution out of that. And so this is where here you can actually just choose your resolution, whichever plan you're on, and just toggle it on. So this was, as I said, several times throughout the week so far, this was one of the main draws that when I saw this, it was just a great little feature that, you don't have to be on a specific tier to get access to 1080p. It's just there enabled. There is obviously a caveat with this because physics is physics and bandwidth is bandwidth. So your video resolution may be lower depending on network conditions. So obviously, if you've got a terrible network connection, then it could always be an issue. That's just that's just science, isn't it? But anyway, so I thought, I'd just mention that this resolution thing is across the board in terms of the plans. So I'm going to just shut this one down because most of this is the same things we've talked about. You also have access, I should say, to your virtual backgrounds and things like that in there if you are using them. And also, this is where we can change the meeting mode as well. So we've talked about meeting mode 3 times so far. Once in the general settings, which is your defaults. We've also talked about it in the scheduling because you can choose the meeting mode at startup, but you can also here actually change the meeting mode partway through. So imagine you are going to do a demonstration style webinar and then you want to open it up to Q&A afterwards. Well, you could actually just start in a full-on presentation webinar mode and then switch it partway through to open it up to Q&A where other people come on camera, and it just gives you that level of control. I think that's a really nice feature, to be honest, to be able to have a regular webinar, but then switch it partway through, or vice versa, if people get too unruly. But I'm sure they wouldn't. So that's a nice little touch there, I thought. Breakout rooms. So here you can just assign people to breakout rooms or do it manually or whatever. You can also, if you go into the participants list, so kind of jumping over to the other side, here, pretty self-explanatory. We've got the mute, the camera, and obviously clicking the button brings up the camera selector. I like in here how it does actually show you a preview of all of your cameras as well. So clicking on the little button, you don't just see the name, but you see the preview. If you are using just one camera, it's probably not an issue. But if you've got 4 or 5 cameras coming in through different means, then it is nice to be able to see those different options there. And then reactions, raise hand, and so on. But if I come over to the participants list, as well as the breakout rooms there, you can also just have a one-to-one meeting with somebody, so you can grab them out of the meeting and it just basically takes you into a breakout room with them. Now, obviously, if you're the host, you're not going to do that and leave everyone else in the main meeting room. But let's say you wanted to assign a co-host or a moderator, as they call them, which is an ideal name for them, because often a co-host is not necessarily hosting, they are moderating. I thought it's a good terminology to use there. So if I was to assign this person as a moderator, and there was a lot of people in, then the moderator could then go in and, if there was a tech issue or something like that, take the other person out just from within there. Then you've obviously got, Spotlight. So if you are doing a presentation where, you are intended to be front and center and you haven't done this through the meeting type setup, then of course you can Spotlight. You can also pin people as well if you need to pin any of the participants, mute and unmute all, and so on. And you can also invite people from here as well. Now, incidentally, there is this invite button here, but you'll see it also down at the bottom. Now, what I've done is I've just got a little overlay to pop over this that basically just hides my one of my addresses somewhere else. Let me just pop this over here. If you have gone into the invite button at the bottom, then the other thing that you can do from here is you can also just actually call out. So you'll see there is a little flag and a placeholder for a phone number. You can literally type in a phone number, click call, and it will call that person, and then you can bring them in the meeting from here. So if you need to grab somebody and they're not available, or they haven't got your email and you just want to call them, I thought that's a great feature to be able to just call them directly from within here, and that will then grab them and bring them into the meeting. Then the participants list we've just looked at. Then if we go to the chat, obviously we've got private and public chat there, and you can obviously direct message people from this as well. And then you can change the style of the chat. Now, this is just one of these things that the sort of meeting type covers off. You might well have previously had to go through the process of saying, okay, I want to adjust the permissions on chat. I want to do this. I want to do that. And you set all of those things up. But with having those different meeting types, it's kind of doing all of these as presets. But nevertheless, these are worth mentioning. So public and private chat, that means that people can chat publicly in the public thing, the public chat, or they can also direct message people. So I would recommend strongly that you only ever use that when people know each other and you're in a friendly forum, shall I say. Whereas if you're doing anything which is kind of open to the general public, and there might be people coming in who don't know each other, and it's maybe like a one-off event, they're new people to you, then definitely the most have public chat, because you don't want to be in a situation where somebody's getting unwanted attention, unwanted direct messages from somebody else. So that would be why you would use the public chat there. And next would be, if you don't want to encourage any chat to go on at all, then maybe only chatting with moderators so that they can just chat if they've got a problem, or of course you can just turn it all off. But like I say, I like the fact that this whole sort of functionality is all rolled into those 4 different meeting types, which would really cover off a lot. Next, you've got polls. You can create these up in advance, but here you can also just come in here, quickly create a poll and so on, and start that. So yeah, it's really easy to just do that as well. What else do I need to just look up on here? We've got the participants. That's bringing out the participants we've already had. And then here is meeting details. And you can grab the dial-in numbers and things like that there as well. And then this one is another access into that quick change between the different type of conversation. So with that said, let me just pop back over into the chat once again. So you do get a URL which you can embed on your website. Oh, I've covered that one off. Dan saying that would be the top tier. Yes, the Pro plan is the only one I've been using for 2 years. On the scheduling page, it looks like you have to choose a duration for a meeting. What if you don't know how? Yeah, I guess it's you're putting that in, but it can overrun. I mean, I've started a meeting here and we've been going for an hour 43, because I got this up and running before we started. So this particular meeting has been running for an hour and 43. So I think it's more from a scheduling point of view when you're adding it into your calendar or things like that. That's really the duration thing there. It's not going to cut you off after that time. Is that so? There's no time limit on the meetings either with those different tiers either. It's great that we've got an experienced user in here answering it as well. So thanks for popping this in. For example, when you schedule a meeting for 2 hours, that is your end time. However, the meeting will continue after the end time if the host will monitor it. So there we go. That's exactly it. So far, the UI of Vivo looks well thought out with a clean, accessible design. That was exactly, I mean, I feel like I'm just going through saying, let me show you the buttons, because it is a very intuitive thing, and it's always a sign for me. I mean, I get to, quite lucky really that I get to test things out, and be it hardware, software, and so on. And it's very easy for me to get enthusiastic about something that, you don't really need a manual for it. You just sort of pick it up and can use it. And as I say, that applies with hardware and software, and it's very much like this. And this is kind of what I was saying right at the beginning as well about the settings. I think some applications have settings that have become so bloated and complex that with all kinds of different adjustments, that actually it becomes more confusing, and it's very easy when you've got something like that. It's very easy to inadvertently have something set that you don't want to have set. And in fact, on the afternoon session, Dan, of the Q&A today, Pip was talking about how there was some setting that had been changed in another platform, and it was kind of deep in the settings, and she didn't know what the setting was, but it had now affected meetings going forward. So the simplistic approach, I think, is it should not be underestimated. So I think if the moderator or a host is in, then it would continue. So if the host or moderator is still online, then the meeting would continue. Been using it for 2 years with no limit, and they don't charge for storage. I think next year they'll start charging for storage. So that is of the storage of the recordings. Have you used Vivo for a meeting? How have yours, and more importantly, the guests' feedback? It's been fine for me, actually. So and don't worry about the the Alex. I think Siri made it her New Year's resolution at the beginning of 2023 to start auto-correcting my name back to Alex. I don't know why, but it happens all the time to me as well. So yeah, the results have been good from the usage that I've had of it so far. Do Vivo integrate with Stream Deck? Sorry if this has already been asked. There isn't a meeting plugin actually for Stream Deck. No, so it doesn't have a plugin for Stream Deck at all, actually. So it would just be a case of keyboard shortcuts, although there isn't a massive quantity of keyboard shortcuts for it in any case, actually. So that's more of a feature request, I'm afraid, at this point. Can the breakout rooms be reserved for regular use by specific individuals or teams in coaching? You know what? That's an interesting question. I don't know, actually. I know that the breakout rooms can be set up in advance, but I'm not sure about that. I would have to get back to you. There's some great questions here that I am not aware of. Can someone besides the host record the meeting, perhaps a moderator? Moderators have access to the recording, but the guests, I don't think do, would be the answer to that. I'm just going to just check in here. The guests don't have access to the recording, but the host does, and then they get a link to it, so they could technically send that out afterwards. But no, it doesn't have that feature, I don't think. With that said, let's take a look, because we talked a little bit about some of these different plans and so on. So let's take a look at some of the differences between those. And if I go over to my site over here. We'll talk briefly about the pricing, and they have got some sort of lifetime pricing going on at the moment as well. But I'll talk about these different plans, because the pricing is still relative to these plans in any case. So there's the basic, the standard, the plus, and the pro. And this is the sort of difference in features. But there's a couple of things that I want to just point out, is this webinar mode. So it's the fact that webinar is included basically from the basic tier all the way up to the top. And that's something that is often an add-on, or that you need a completely different software to do it. So the fact that the webinar feature is built in, and those 4 different meeting modes are available for everybody, I think is great. The thing about switching for the to HD, that is applicable to all of them as well. And let's take a look at some of these other things. So some of the things that we were talking about, in fact, let me go over to this other one. I've got a better comparison table here. So there you go. The capacity there, this is the meeting capacity from 12 up to 300. So I know some folks in my academy have been, looking at alternatives to their current meeting platform of choice, or looking for something new. If you're doing sort of coaching calls or one-to-ones or small groups, then yes, the capacity there might be more than adequate. Includes webinar. Let's look at some of the differences. So audio conferencing and file transfer is not in the basic. There's basically lots of, what I like about this is there's lots of ticks all the way down. So it's the main differentiator is the number of participants. And I'll leave you to look through all of this yourself, but there was a couple of other things that I wanted to just point out. Custom hold music, if that's important to you in your waiting room, then if you want to be able to choose that, it's those higher 2 tiers. This AI transcription though, so yeah, another Academy member is looking to switch from their current platform because they are using the platform, then they're using Webinar as an add-on, and then they're using a third-party software to do their AI transcription. So this is basically all in one at that pro level. Speaker Spotlight, for me, that is a really critical thing. So that's only in these the top 3 tiers. Enhanced security as well, which I would argue that should be a given as well. So yeah, the end-to-end encryption is something that you I think should be a priority there. So that's maybe the plus level and above. Custom branding, that was the thing that I sort of showed briefly, which was the ability to basically go in and add your logo, your colors and things like that. That is on the there. Co-host and alternative host is on for all of them. I think those were the main ones that I just wanted to sort of draw your attention to. Oh, and then the one that Dan was asking about, live streaming up to 10,000 participants using the portal. So that is on that pro plan. But again, I'll come back to the pricing of that. It's still. I mean, I'm here on the Vivo Meetings channel, but as an impartial person, I think it's reasonably priced when you compare it to other platforms to be able to stream. Do a live webinar to that number of people. It's a pretty reasonable rate, I think, for that. So that is the feature set, and let's go and have a quick check in here to see if I've missed anything. I see that there are add-ons to the plans. Do you have any experience with the event? I don't actually have any experience with that myself. I'll be interesting to hear from somebody else. They mention attendees rather than participants. So the event webinar add-on usually would be in terms of attendees rather than parties. I don't know if I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, whether that's just the terminology, but the event or webinar, I think of that as, it's a very one-directional thing. So it's just people who are attending, as opposed to a meeting where I think of those as participants. I'm not sure if I've missed the point of that comment or not, but yeah. So let me just see if there's something else I wanted to mention in here. I should also say, with relation to the scheduling, I'll just come back over to the main website as well. Was that the integration with things like, so obviously Google, but then also integration with Zapier. And somebody was asking me, I did a stream on my channel about this, was asking about whether it integrates with Calendly. And it doesn't integrate directly with Calendly, although you can link with Zapier into Calendly. But in fact, Vivo have also just launched their own calendar, Vivo Calendar, which is one of those scheduling things themselves. So you can find out about that on their homepage as well. Can the admin options be popped out to a second monitor like the chats and polls? I don't think the admin options can be popped out. Let me just try that. I don't think they can actually. No, and I didn't actually show the different views. I mean, it's pretty. I say pretty obvious, but it's the usuals. So let me just change this out of there. So you've got obviously the gallery view, the sidebar, the bottom view, and then also when you're in gallery view, you can change the page size. I like the fact that you can change the page size down actually. So rather than like Zoom, for example, has 25 and you can switch it to 47. If you are using a teleprompter, as I do, then although this one's actually fine for 25 people, on a smaller teleprompter, you may want to have multiple pages of the gallery, but you might only want 16 on the thing. So to have that adjustment could be quite useful. Hiding the self view, obviously, to just get that off if you don't want to see yourself. And then there's also an option to just have it automatically hide when you are just with you and one other person, but then it would be on when it's you and multiple people, or vice versa. So that's just in there as well. But I'm sort of jumping back into the settings there. Layouts. Can we develop our own template, i.e. 2 hosts and a gallery? I don't think so at the moment. No, it's not that. It's basically, it is these options. So you've either got the active speaker like that, and the speaker over here, or you've got this bottom view. I mean, technically what you could do, I suppose, is if you have got the non-video participants, if you're in a meeting style where they are not on camera, then presumably you could just have the 2 visible at the top there as the active ones. But yeah, there's no arranging of these things as such, apart from just sort of changing the size and things like that. But no sort of design going on in there at all. So let's take a quick look at the roadmap that they have got, because it is nice to see that they've got that up there, and it's also nice to be able to see what we might think is missing, and maybe there might be some feature requests that we want to put in. I mean, for me, things like the virtual camera, potentially ISO video out would be fantastic, to be able to have an isolated video feed coming out that you can then use in your production. For example, like you want to bring a guest out of your meeting into your live production software, so then you've got the 2 people next to each other on that in the recording as well as in the meeting. So that would be another feature request for me. But if I go over to their roadmap, so if I'm over on this screen up here, so this is just on the page, you can see what's been done in 2023, what they're currently working on. So messaging, markdown in messaging, billing for storage. So somebody mentioned that earlier. I forget who it was, but that there is going to be plans for additional storage for recording and so on. Snooze notifications, mobile and chat UX improvements, and then if we look at next, what's coming next? Application badges, reactions to messages, and later, so some other things that they've got on. Virtual backgrounds 2.0. It'd be interesting to see what that is, because I mentioned earlier that, I'm not a great fan of virtual backgrounds in any platform. So it'd be interesting to see if there's something that is significantly improved in just general virtual backgrounds. That would be interesting. So let's come back to the chat and see. There was some discussion in AppSumo about local recordings on the roadmap anytime. So I don't know, actually. Let's have a look and see if it says in here if that is when that is. I don't know about the local recordings. I'm just having a quick look now. This is playing the game of let me read that for you, and I'll see. I don't see it on there, actually. I can try and find out, though. So yeah, I can certainly find out and get back to you about that one. So yeah, that would definitely be useful. In Zoom webinar, you can invite people as attendees who can only view the presentation, and separately invite participants who can come on screen and be a part of the presentation. Oh, I see what you mean. Right, yes. So it's kind of more like a hybrid of that. I guess in this case, what I would do to achieve that result is I would have the meeting running in the meeting with whatever permissions that you wanted there, and then you could have the sort of the portal side of things streaming to that. Although technically, then you haven't got the registrations for people coming in. So yeah, probably there isn't quite that level of granularity in here. But there we go. Contact them last week. They will release local recordings same time when they start charging for storage. Oh, I see. So that makes perfect sense then, doesn't it? So you've either got the option of recording in the cloud or recording locally. I'm really pleased you're here because you're helping me answer a lot of questions and filling the gaps in my knowledge. So I really appreciate it. Indeed, that would be huge. So if anyone's got any questions that I may or may not be able to answer about anything I've covered today, or at least, my sort of experience of using it, then I'm happy to answer those. If anybody is watching on the replay and has any questions, then feel free to drop those in the comments as well. and I'll get round to those. But as I say, the big draw for me when I was first contacted by Vivo about this potential collaboration was obviously I've got to be able to check this out for myself and try it and put it through its paces. But the thing for me was the resolution was the key thing, because it's something that I know that a lot of folks have issues with on other platforms, and it was also the fact that we've got webinars and things like that built into it, and also the AI transcripts. And certainly a number of folks in the Take One Tech Academy had been talking all around these issues before this potential collaboration came along. And it was just something that really piqued my interest. And so this is all leading into tomorrow, where we will be talking about live production software, because that's where I think that this has got a real use case or a real help for that use case. Thank you, Terrace, for reminding me. I did go and completely skip over that, I should say. Let me come back to the pricing. I've got it up already here. If you go down to start now, where is it now? It is on their website. Where is it there? Pricing. There we go. So if you go right up to the top of the page here, so where I'm in the pricing and you've got the tiers. So this tells you the difference between the basic, the standard, the plus, and the pro. But if you go here, you can change obviously monthly or annual. Annual changes drops the price down, of course, as well. But up here, notice that they've got this lifetime deals. And if you click on there, then this is lifetime recurring deals, pay once only, no recurring fees. And so you could sign up to the basic for life, the starter. So those are those 4 different plans. The starter, they're actually slightly different tiers now that I look at that. Basic. I see what's happening. So there's some other ones in between basically as well. But yeah, anyway, so that is where those that lifetime pricing is, and I'll probably leave you to go and decide the difference between all of those packages. And that so the pro there looks like basically exactly the same as this pro level. It's just essentially lifetime access to it. So definitely worth checking that out. So let me see where I've been up to. So you've been using it for 2 years, and it's definitely. I highly recommend giving it a go, because it ticks a lot of boxes for me, at least. So there we go. The price is $504 on both the Vivo site and the AppSumo site. Oh, so yes, it is also available on AppSumo as well. And I guess, as Dan is saying, the pricing that I just showed there for the lifetime deals is the same either directly on the site or on AppSumo. So, do I have any thoughts on that? Not necessarily, unless there's some other benefit to looking at it on AppSumo. Like if you're an AppSumo member, then there may be something else, some other benefit to looking at there. But it would just be a case of comparing all of the plans and seeing which one looks right for you. But obviously there's a free trial, so I would definitely go ahead and give it a try first, put it through its paces, and all of that good stuff as well. Okay, if there are no further questions or any feedback or comments or anything like that, as I say, if you are watching on the replay, you can go ahead and drop those questions down in the comments down below in the chat. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about advanced live production, and I will be focused on Ecamm Live, but it actually doesn't need to be just that. If you're on a piece, Ecamm Live is the Mac live production software that I've been using to do all of this today and this week. So this little animation that came on is a combination of Keynote, Ecamm Live, all of the switching I've been doing between different scenes. So, going to my screen share and things like that. That's all done with Ecamm Live, and I'm just using a series of buttons on my desk. So if I come over to here, I've got my Stream Deck here. So I'm doing all of my scene switching with this to switch from, there. If I want to go back to my presentation, I press this button and it brings me back over here. So all of this sort of stuff, it's just a game changer, honestly, when it comes to meetings, webinars, presentations, and you just want to be able to quickly bring information up on screen. Maybe you want to just be able to, draw a quick diagram like I did earlier, whatever it happens to be, and you've got a scene set up to do that. It really is a game changer for meetings. And so all that I've been talking about this week is kind of leading up to that as well, really. The reason why I was so enthusiastic about Vivo was some of the functionality that helps us if we are doing live productions like that. And then obviously day 1 and 2, lighting and cameras and audio and so on. And then day 3, talking about presentations and this immersive presentation style, which gives us, the ability to create things like this and the animations. And so tomorrow we'll sort of bring all of this together and tie a little bow on it. So that's the idea. So thanks once again to you all for being here. And you're welcome, of course, anytime, Dan. I love all the questions. That's what we're here for. And that's just a quick one to mention. At times they have coupons if you buy directly on their site. Well, that's definitely worth looking out for as well. Thanks everyone for being here. I'll see you all the same time tomorrow.